All right, good evening. Welcome to the Happy Valley Huddle. I'm your host, Mike Jaber, alongside co-host Jake
Jake.
Katolka. Welcome to the
Oh, I
Happy
didn't know
Valley
you were
Huddle, where
introducing
we'll
here.
have your weekly shows on Penn State sports as well as college sports around the world. And just an introduction, we are both Penn State alumni, the class of 2025, and we hope to see you here every Saturday until the season starts, where we go 2 times a week for this podcast. So if you want to say anything, Jake, as we begin.
Yeah, man. Look, me and Mike, we started this podcast spontaneously, literally just a couple of days ago. We're like, yeah, we're going to make a Penn State football podcast. We're proud alum. I'm currently living out here in Pittsburgh. Just moved here, so I'm surrounded by a bunch of Pitt fans. So doing this podcast is going to keep me absolutely sane. And Mike, Mr. Mike, you could explain where you are and why doing this podcast will be awesome for you.
Yeah, this podcast would be great because me and Jake are big Penn State fans, and just being alumni and following Penn State for so long, I think this is important. We can just talk about anything that comes around with Penn State sports. I think it's really important. But as we get ready to start your first show, we're going to be talking about the Pinstripe Bowl, which Penn State was just introduced to, and will be playing in either Louisville, Pitt, or who else? Clemson.
Someone in the ACC, that's what it said. It'd be a disservice to not schedule us versus Pitt, I'll tell you that right now. And my God, being in the city of Pittsburgh, it'd be hilarious if we could play Pitt. But we'll get into that more.
Yeah, we'll be getting into that and the hiring of Matt Campbell coming up in just a minute. And good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Happy Valley Huddle, your show of Penn State sports as well as college sports around the world. I'm your host, Mike Jaber, alongside co-host Jake Katolka. And Jake, we have finally some news with this Penn State head coach search. I think one of the biggest things is this thing took 54 days to get it inked to paper. But before we get into that, let's start with Penn State in the Pinstripe Bowl. I think that's important. At least they're bowl eligible. I believe Terry Smith will be coaching for the Pinstripe Bowl, but they have a chance of playing Pitt. How do you feel about that?
Well, like I said in the intro, Pitt and Penn State fans, I think they have this regional rivalry, kind of like Iowa and Iowa State being from the same state. Like what I'm seeing on Twitter is that those schools apparently really hate each other. So we have this regional rivalry. We know there's kind of been this funny issue where for some reason Penn State hasn't scheduled Pitt since 2019, literally post-COVID plus post-COVID era. We haven't played them. So the fact that we could very well be playing them in a bowl is awesome. Look, I'm literally from Pittsburgh. I work with people that are diehard Pitt fans, so it'd be nice to have some bragging rights next year. Obviously, we want something a little more than the Pinstripe Bowl, which we'll get into a little bit more later. But I think it'd be a fun game, man, and I'm honestly happy. At first, I was leaning towards no for a bowl game. The guys have been through way too much, adversity, just weird situations this year. But Terry Smith has rallied the crew, and I want to see him at his first bowl win. What do you think?
Yeah, I really do think this team has enough talent. And I've seen a lot of comments out there saying if they do get Pitt, they won't be able to beat Pitt, which I don't think is, I mean, honestly, probably be a really good game. But at the same time, you compare Penn State's talent to Pitt's talent, even though it's been a down year for Penn State going 6-6. In the end, Penn State has more talent. That's just the way it is. I mean, honestly, Pitt would probably be slight favorites in the game, but overall, that would probably be one of the best games. And even playing Louisville, playing the team of Jeff Brom, who signed a contract extension in Louisville, that would also be pretty cool to go out and beat that team.
Yeah, a lot of it's really poetic. To your point, we have to beat Pitt because we literally, everybody like on Twitter, social media, public discourse, it's just all this back and forth. Again, there's like this regional rivalry. So I feel like we would look kind of dumb if we didn't go out there and like kill them. But yeah, I mean, like, look, for losing like 5 straight at one point, whatever it was, ESPN and their FPI Power Index always had Penn State as a top 25 team, which is kind of questionable. But nonetheless, we've had a lot of talent, and we should, Pitt's a beatable team. I'm excited. Pinstripe Bowl, too. I think that's played at the Yankee Stadium. I don't know if they changed that venue in recent years. Uncle Bob's a big Penn State alum. Last time we played the Pinstripe Bowl was against Boston College, and I think 15 or 16 he went to that.
So I mean, there's a lot to cover with Penn State and the Pinstripe Bowl. It's going to be played on December 27th. We don't know the site, don't know the opponent yet, but that's what we're keeping in mind. But we do finally have a head coach, Jake. Matt Campbell, hired yesterday, pending board approval for Monday. pretty sure it's going to go through with the board. But on
Yeah.
Monday, Matt Campbell will be able to introduce himself to Penn State. And honestly, for as long as this took, Jake, this was a really solid hire for Penn State.
Yeah.
You're talking
Yeah.
54 days. You're talking 54 days of searching, multiple letdowns. We thought we were getting Brian Hartline. We thought we were getting Brom at some point. We thought we were getting Brent Key from Georgia Tech, for sake. But we ended up with a very late pick in Matt Campbell. And my biggest question is, why wasn't he at the top of the list to begin with?
I have no idea. I wish I had more insight into what that administration was thinking. I'm under the belief that they wanted to just get into contact with these quote unquote home run hires, right? These already very established head coaches leading these programs, right? Obviously, there's some fun. There's I've been seeing how much richer Penn State has made all these head coaches, and it's a lot richer. So fact of the matter is that we tried to get other coaches. We looked at these home run hires, and we just couldn't do it. But I don't know. I'm also seeing this thing here. I want to hear your thoughts where Penn State apparently was trying to get in touch with Matt Campbell, and apparently Matt Campbell was saying that he didn't want to talk until he officially finished the regular season. Because you see there's this trend where, like in the Lane Kiffin situation, where these guys are kind of just, and to Lane Kiffin's credit, he finished the season. But some people, if that LSU job opened sooner, Kiffin would have bailed sooner. But he just didn't want to give up on the season, and he wanted to finish the season with Iowa State. That's what I heard. But as for what Penn State and Pat Kraft are doing, I have no idea. I'm just happy it's over. And I lost track of time. I had no idea it was even 54 days.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things with Matt Campbell becoming Penn State head coach is that this guy has had success at Iowa State.
Yeah.
And Toledo. And don't get me wrong, Iowa State is a struggling Power 4 team. They are not a team that's expected to go 11-1 and make the playoffs every year. They're lucky. A good season for them is 9-10 wins.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then if you really think about it, you're taking Iowa State's talent level and you're bringing it to Penn State's level. And now he has all this money put into NIL and for his coaching staff to come in. So I really do think this is going to be a good fit for Matt Campbell. I really do think he has a good chance of succeeding at Penn State.
And I'll tell you what, I think, you see obviously a variety of opinions out there. Some people don't like it. Some people do. I like it. But I think one thing I do like is just expanding on that culture fit point that you made. I think their visions are really in line, because I think what Matt Campbell was kind of thinking, mind you, this is a guy who has been poached by NFL teams and other college football teams. I think the one NFL team was the Lions, USC. And he obviously took the Penn State job, and it's I think in his mind, he knows that he's ambitious and he just wants to have a crack at a bigger Power 5, I guess, blue blood like Penn State, where he could have these resources and become a contender year in and year out. So it's from Penn State's perspective, obviously we fired our head coach, not necessarily because we wanted to win national championships every single year. It's just we wanted to get over that hump and be a contender. We wanted to be that team in the college football playoff where Georgia or Oregon would be wow, Penn State, that's a tough team. That's going to be a tough team to beat. And so I feel our visions are very much in line. So that's what makes me feel good about this. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Matt Campbell can come in here and be pretty successful. I think that given the situation with National Signing Day and that being over already, I think we're losing out on a lot of recruits. Maybe this is where the part that I think Pat Kraft messed up a little bit with this search, but at the same time, it's a good recovery for him, probably saving his job. But we're talking about Matt Campbell and his deal coming in at 8 years, almost $10 million a year. Now, James Franklin's contract was quite hefty for his 10-year deal that was given back to him in 2021. But that's just the way coaching goes anymore. You're going to get a longer-term contract. You're going to get a lot of money. I'm not particularly worried about any kind of buyout money because he hasn't coached a game yet. But at the same time, I think that, again, this is going to be a really good hire. We'll just see how it goes. It might be a little bit of a down year next year for Penn State, but I think they can recover pretty quickly from this.
Yeah, and obviously, like you said, signing 2 guys wasn't ideal. They got to work the portal hard. $30 million is not nothing. We'll get to that. We'll talk about that more. But I also I do want to add to, I don't want to like have that mentality where we look at next season and it's like, all right, I just don't want to forfeit next season as a down year. Our schedule really isn't that bad next season, which like whatever. I feel like it's always nice to have a couple tough opponents so you're at least ready for the college football playoff or your conference championship game. But nonetheless, I mean, our schedule next year isn't bad. We have Michigan on the road. We'll see who ends up being surprisingly good. USC looked better this year. We have them at home. I heard that's going to be our whiteout, I think. But I'm hoping we could go out there next year and win 9 games, honestly, 8 or 9 games.
I think it's completely possible because you don't have Ohio State in the schedule. You don't have Indiana in the schedule. You don't have Oregon. I don't believe Oregon's in that schedule, right?
I don't think they are. It's
I think
USC,
it's
which,
Washington,
yeah,
USC. Honestly, those might be, and Michigan. Those are probably the 3 tougher games on the schedule for next year. But it's safe to say that given the circumstances now, Matt Campbell's just got to do his best to try to give this team at least a decent year. 8, 9 wins would probably be acceptable. And watch out for John Heacock coming around. He was
yeah.
with Iowa State and Campbell for quite some time. Very good defensive coordinator. I think it would be interesting if they brought him in, which would be very good for them because I don't think Knowles' defense has really worked out. There's been some games where they've looked really good, but I think the scheme is just too difficult for them to understand. Or again, as I said at the beginning of the season, this could have been Ohio State's way of just getting rid of them because
Yeah.
honestly,
I
something
don't know.
wasn't
I've had really,
something
yeah.
wasn't sitting.
Yeah, I mean, every graphic I've seen, it's like, oh, in Jim Knowles' first couple of years, his defenses give up a lot of points and yardage, and then it gets better over time. But it's like, what's the point of having a pro style scheme so complex that it's taking years for like we have very talented guys, and it's taking years for them to like understand that or for it to develop. I don't really understand the nuances of it, but Peacock, I think, was in contention to be a Broyles Award winner, which is the nation's highest award for a coaching assistant multiple times. So he's kind of like an old guard, legendary defensive coach. It'd be cool if Campbell brought him. I'm on the board. I'm on board with Knowles leaving. Overall, I think that's kind of the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's switch over to the coaching search itself. Again, 54 days it took for Pat Kraft and Penn State to get someone hired. And we're wondering why it just really took so long. Was it rejection? Was it these coaches not willing? I think this is one reason why I'm willing to give Matt Campbell a chance is because he actually wants to coach this team.
Yeah.
None of these coaches really wanted to, except for Terry Smith.
Yeah. I feel like in the Kalani, I feel like the 2 coaches, obviously, that we poached the hardest were Sataki. That was a really funny week there with the whole crumble cookies Mormon church thing, and then obviously and they had I'm hearing on like message boards that they had a handshake deal, and then obviously we got Campbell. But in Sataki's case, like I feel like in general many coaches kind of, you mentioned how we couldn't get someone for 54 days. I feel like in general a lot of coaches kind of just used us as leverage to get a larger contract, right? We saw Drinkwitz get the extension, Signetti first. So, I mean, we made a lot of coaches richer. But at the same time, I mean, there's also the fact that Penn State, like, what do you think of Penn State being a desirable location, right? Like in that Pat Kraft audio that was leaked, the one football player mentioned that we're in like the middle of nowhere, right? That not only doesn't appeal to players, but also coaches too. What do you think of all that?
I don't really care about the scenery that much, but what's around State College? State College is going to be State College. It's in the mountains. I get it. There's nothing really there besides State College and the college town itself. But you're talking about a program who's been successful, made the college football playoff last year, easily a top 10 destination in college football.
I agree.
Easily a top 10 destination.
The job was better than many. The job was better than the media portrayed it to be. A lot of people really didn't give it the benefit of the doubt. It ended up being an undervalued destination given how long it took us to land a coach, given the fact that a lot of people just seemed really disinterested in coming to Penn State. So I'm happy, to your point, Matt Campbell clearly wanted to be here. I even heard that he told Iowa State not even to put in the effort to restructure his contract to give him an extension because he really wanted this job. So yeah, I appreciate that out of him. I think that's a great sign.
I think that is too. But a lot of people still not happy about Terry Smith not being hired. And the thing I come to learn about Terry Smith is if they didn't get Campbell, I would have been okay with Terry Smith being in there for a year or two. See what he does with new fresh year with fresh recruits. But the problem with Terry Smith is he's never had that role of being a head coach anywhere else.
Yeah.
And going right from interim head coach at a top 10 program to the main head coach is a big jump. And Terry Smith was drawing interest from Memphis, who is now being coached by actually one of the Penn State assistant coaches. And then as well as UConn. So Terry Smith probably would have been a decent hire at one of those colleges. Group of 4 play or group of 5 play. And I mean, UConn and Memphis, great starting schools for Terry Smith. But Terry Smith is loyal to Penn State, and he's not leaving.
Yeah, to your point, Terry Smith, I think, is a leader of men. It's obvious that he took a team that was lacking in motivation, that was kind of like out of it, right? There's the Oregon game where we underperformed expectations because we didn't win, went out as 20-point favorites 2 consecutive weeks and lost. The team just seemed at a real low, and he picked them back up. So he'd be a great leader, and those 2 schools would be great starting points for him. If somehow Campbell fell through and we're going to be going into mid-December, late December without a coach, Smith would have been honestly a very good coach to just be like, hey, we're going to give you a 3-year contract. You've done a great job. You took a team that wasn't very motivated and ended up getting some nice wins with them in November. And you actually made a lot of good changes to the roster, showing that, hey, you aren't just a motivator and a leader of these guys. You're actually a pretty good X's and O's coach. Getting Kodal Nicky to simplify his offense, stop doing gimmicky stuff, giving the clearly more talented running back more carries.
Absolutely. Yeah. Big Katron, ever since Franklin left, Katron's killed it out there, man. He was killing it every game.
Yeah.
Something tells me that Franklin didn't trust the run game.
Yeah. Yeah. And man, everybody's saying like, oh, you should have stuck with James Franklin through the rest of the season, or you shouldn't have fired him, right? Particularly like, in the beginning of the week when we looked like fools with the whole crumble cookie thing. Oh, you should have fired James Franklin. It was more than just those 3 games that he lost. I listened to some of the Pat Kraft audio. You he was mismanaging NIL, paying guys like Liam Clifford $500K or $180,000 per catch, right? He was picking and choosing favorites, playing them, paying them, and that's just not a great way to run a football team. One thing I will say, I think Campbell is going to be way more resourceful with that NIL money.
I completely agree with you, and I hope that's the case for Penn State. And it's going to be an interesting season coming up with both of them on the team now, Campbell and Smith. But we do have to turn a break, and we will be back right after the break with more. We'll be talking more about recruiting, the transfer portal, and how it can help Penn State, and also the quarterback situation. That's coming up on Happy Valley Huddle. All right, welcome back to Happy Valley Huddle. Mike Javier alongside Jacob Katolka, Penn State. Now, we've talked about Matt Campbell so far. Matt Campbell's glad to have Matt Campbell along here. But thing is, we hired him too late. We're past National Signing Day. Luckily, we were able to get 2 recruits.
2, yeah. Quarterback Peyton Falzone. I think he's a PA guy. I am about 99% sure on that. And edge rusher Jackson Ford. So really happy about that. I came across, not sure if it was TikTok or Twitter, I came across Falzone doing like an interview with his parents, or like giving a speech, and he was saying that he was happy to stick with Penn State, and that even though he wanted Terry Smith to be the head coach, he said he was going to stand by and support whoever got the job. If he's a guy who follows college football a lot, which I'm sure he is, I'm sure he's completely okay with Matt Campbell. And yeah, man, those 2 guys are troopers. So don't forget those 2 names, guys. Remember, those are the 2 guys that stuck with us. Don't want to be dramatic and say these were our darkest days, because that is not even true.
I mean, basically, they're Penn State legends. They're Penn State legends at this point.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember the last time we didn't have a head coach going into National Signing Day.
Yeah, it's I started following college football after I started high school, so like a 2017 season. So I wasn't really watching it when Franklin got hired in 2014, but I imagine he was hired before signing day. And the college football calendar is crazy because you have signing day and then the portal. Like my way of looking at it like this, like I was trying to cope. It was like, all right, like 2 guys isn't good. What were we, like the 150th class behind some like, really smaller tier D1 schools? It was like, all right, that's not good. But if we could work the portal hard, I mean, look at Indiana. I think really built their team through the portal. Sometimes teams do that. I mean, it's just a new era in college football. If this was 10 years ago, I really think we'd be going into a much worse situation than we are right now.
Yes, and they gave Matt Campbell now $30 million in NIL and $17 million towards staffing. I think that is a lot of money for Matt Campbell to work with NIL. So, I mean, honestly, if he's going out and trying to poach people, great players, I mean, he's obviously going to bring people in from the Midwest. I think this is where the transfer portal comes into play for. I think a lot of Iowa State guys are actually going to be making their way over to Penn State with the transfer portal. But I think Penn State is best option right now. The transfer portal opens January 2nd, I believe. And once that transfer portal opens, they need to bring in as many players as they can because, unfortunately, I hate to say it, although, I mean, a lot of their guys are graduating, don't get me wrong. They're denied Dennis Sutton, not going to be here. Zane Durant's not going to be here. I mean, a lot of the offensive line, Katron Allen, Nick Singleton, not going to be there. Drew Aller, gone. But they really need to hit the transfer portal hard. I think that's one of the important things. And I think Terry Smith is actually, retaining him is actually really important to that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, from holding up higher Terry Smith signs to public endorsements from, the people who wanted to come to Penn State. I mean, the guys love him. So, yeah, he's going to be crucial in, number one, retaining people who are already here, like Grunkemeyer, who I really want to retain. And also, number two, continued high school recruiting. It's going to be down to him and only a couple other guys that have, like, true, like, legitimate PA recruiting routes. So, and like in that surrounding area. So, we don't want Franklin and VT to out recruit us. So, honestly, it makes me feel a lot better that we retain Terry Smith. And again, $30 million in NIL, that is really significant. Again, it just comes down to how you spend that money. Let's not act like Franklin had 50 cents to spend. He had a lot of money too. And in that audio with Pat Kraft, I'm sure a lot of people have listened to it at this point. We found out he was not very resourceful with his spending, to say the least. So spend on high performers. And yeah, that's really it. Spend on high performers.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to go out there and try to get the best talent you can, man. And these guys have to be developed. That's the problem. Drew Aller not developed properly. Going to the NFL, probably going to get selected because of his physicality and his body and his size. He's built like Josh Allen. He really is. Yeah. But he needs a good coach to work with to get his. First of all, he's very mental. When it comes to clutch time situations and he needs to make a play, he never makes it. So I think it's important that Matt Campbell make sure he gets coaches that can develop players really well. And I think one of the players that's developing really well for Penn State is Ethan Grunkemeyer. I think they need to do their best to retain Ethan Grunkemeyer because he still has 3 years of eligibility left.
I agree. From the games I watched, he seemed like a talented quarterback who was passionate and had a lot of potential. I think his official stat line on paper isn't very sexy. I think it's like 6 touchdowns, 4 ints, like a 78 or so QBR. Not super sexy, but watch the games. He was pretty poised in that Indiana game. That was the number 2 team in the country. He was like good in those November games that we won against Michigan State. He was pretty good at Rutgers. Like, I think he was like 17 of 21 last week. I think against it was the game before Rutgers. I forget. He was like 9 or 11 and 9 for 11 in
Nebraska.
Games.
It was Nebraska. Yeah, he played really well. And I mean, ever since, let's start out. He started out in Iowa. That was his first game. That is a tough place to play at night. Top defense every year. And then he went on the road to play Ohio State. I mean, you can't. The good news is he has that experience with him as a quarterback.
Right. And that's another thing I want to emphasize. Like, let's say Campbell brings Rocco Beck to, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing the name right.
Yeah, Rocco Beck. I think, yeah, you're right.
Brings Rocco. Let's be honest, the Big Ten is I think you touched on that point perfectly. I love that Grunk started at Kinnick. He played against the number 2 team in the country. He played in the shoe against Ohio State. That is the guy you want as your starting quarterback. And Campbell, for what it's worth, I heard is good with developing quarterbacks. So develop the guy. Take this guy who's already good and shows flashes of talent and develop him. And experience
Absolutely.
and develop him.
Exactly. That's a good idea. And I think hopefully they're able to retain Grunkemeyer. And I think that's important. But the biggest problem is we're going to see a big turnover with Penn State, obviously. And two of the main guys, we've seen them a lot on social media with Terry Smith and how they've been vouching for Terry Smith to be head coach. And that's Tony Rojas and Kobe Howard. Kobe Howard, wide receiver freshman, who actually has showed flashes, but Franklin never played him at the beginning of the season. But Tony Rojas, on the other hand, although he did injure his ACL and he was out for the season, I believe he injured it in what game did he injure it?
I don't remember. Early on, right?
I think it was the game before Northwestern. Was it UC? I think it was UCLA. He injured it. No, it was before UCLA. It was.
No, because we kept saying how Rojas would have been the spy on Nico. Oh my God, that game!
Yeah, no, it was in
such a good
practice.
memory.
It was in practice that it was in practice they hurt his ACL. So that's important. But it's important to try to retain Tony Rojas, who still has a year left of eligibility at linebacker, and he's a great player. And people are saying that the defense collapsed over one player. That can't necessarily be true. It's got to be something with Jim Knowles, and I think that's where they're trying their very hardest to get rid of him and just pay his buyout and let him go on his way. But this is going to be a tough recovery process for Matt Campbell. He's coming into a situation where the team isn't completely organized. It's going to be new players, new change of scenery for him. But we do trust him with his time here at Penn State. But Jake, before we go to break, we do have some Big Ten championship games, or I should say championship game weekend to talk about. We have the latest on BYU, Texas Tech, as well as Virginia, Duke, and the SEC and Big Ten championships. That's coming up on Happy Valley Huddle.
I'm excited.
All right, welcome back to Happy Valley Huddle. Mike Javer, your host, alongside Jake Katolka, co-host, and we do have some championship weekend to talk about here. Jake, 1 year ago, we were in Indianapolis watching Oregon and Penn State play. It was something to say the least. It was a battle of no defense, that's for sure, but two high-powered offenses last year. But we are starting with the game that actually started at noon Eastern time today. It's BYU and Texas Tech. The score was 34-7 Texas Tech with 4:40 left in the. That's actually the final score now, 34-7.
Oh, it's over.
Yeah, it just ended. So kind of blowout.
Yeah,
Kalani Sitake. I mean, Penn State should be happy.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is, I guess. But I mean, Texas Tech is a very good team. I heard I think they have like one of the best defenses in the country. They clobbered BYU 29-7 the first time. So yeah, only giving up 14 to BYU the whole year is really funny. But I'll be honest, I skipped out on that game, man. I'm telling you, these streaming services are expensive, so I didn't, turn it on.
I mean, I have no, I don't have really much on it. We can just kind of look at, Morton for Texas Tech, 20 for 33, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns. The quarterback for BYU, 16 for 27, 115, 2 interceptions. So it seems like it was just, Texas Tech outplaying them, basically.
Yeah, I'm excited
for them. I think they got big size on Texas Tech, but that's what we have with that. But let's move into a more entertaining game that's coming, or the two games at 4. Actually, the one game at 4:00, and there's 2 of them at 8. So we'll talk about the SEC championship between Georgia and Alabama at 4:00. So what's your prediction on that?
Yeah, look, I want to pick Georgia because I really think they've been more on a roll. I think one of their bigger weaknesses this year was like kind of their defense, which is not really typical of Kirby Smart teams. They gave up 41 to Tennessee. Ole Miss kind of exposed them, put up 36 in their stadium. But look, I mean, Kirby Smart, he's like Ryan Day. He was like Ryan Day with Michigan for 4 years. He's very mental with Bama. But it's a once a year thing. I don't think Kirby should lose twice to Bama. I really think Georgia is going to want this one more, and so I'm going to go with Georgia. But it's going to be a good game.
I'm actually going to say opposite of you because I think that Alabama has their playoff hopes on the line here. If they win this game, good chance they're in. So I'm gonna take Alabama 28-24, edging out Georgia in this game. But I think overall that's gonna be a really good game. I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia wins at all. But moving on to ACC championship, unranked Duke versus number 17 Virginia at 8:00 tonight.
Yeah, I'm not making my prediction based on analytics. I don't watch the ACC. I'm just making my prediction based on bias. Manny Diaz, Penn State coaching alum, obviously are a DC who's very dear to our hearts. Duke is a scrappy team. For those wondering how they got there with the 7-5 record, they only lost 2 conference championships games that helped them break the tie. You would think Miami would have been in it. Their other losses, luckily, very luckily for them, were out of conference, I guess. So it'd be funny if Duke won. Again, I don't really know the analytics of it. I guess Virginia has the better record. Duke's probably a scrappy, well-coached team, though. Be fun and do an upset. I'll say Duke like 31-28 or something.
Yeah, I kind of do like Duke in this situation because Virginia's been very flawed throughout the year. They've gotten away with a bunch of victories that, I mean, in the end, do they really deserve to have? Sure, because they won the game. But at the same time, I think Duke might just run them out a little bit here. I think Duke actually edges out Virginia in this game. But Big Ten championship game, you can't beat it. Number 1 versus number 2 in the country, Ohio State and Indiana. I really do think this is going to be a great game. I believe the line is set at, is it 4.5 or 5.5?
5.5. I don't know how much that has moved this week. That's what it was.
5.5 in favor of Ohio State. So even if it did move, we'll just go off the 5.5. I do think that Ohio State has the best defense in the country. Don't get me wrong, Indiana has a good defense and a good offense, but I don't know if they're going to be able to put up more than 20 points on Ohio State. I'm very serious. I can really see Ohio State winning this one by 10. So I'm going to take Ohio State to win by 10 points.
Absolutely a fair prediction. I'm also going to take Ohio State to win. For what it's worth, I really like that Indiana team. I watched some of that Oregon game, and they are physical, man. Winning an outset is hard. They did that 1 by 10. They're a physical team. They're going to want this game just as much as Ohio State. But covering Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith for 60 minutes, again, trying to outduel that. Ohio State's the most complete team in the country, trying to outduel them for 60 minutes. Ohio State 27, Indiana 20. They cover. It's a close game. Indiana doesn't get hurt that much. Still number 2 in the country.
Yeah, and in the end, whoever loses that game drops 3 spots maybe to number 5. You might lose out on the bye. In the same time, it's not really that big of a deal for 2 teams. But I'm excited to see how that game unfolds. But Jacob, we are out of time for the first show, Happy Valley Huddle. So we appreciate you guys tuning into this first show, and we will see you next Wednesday for our next one. See ya.